Hello, it's Monday the 28th of November and welcome to your 5-minute briefs from Seoul. I'm your host, Heejin Koo. In our second installment of this month, we take a look at the central bank's grim forecast for South Korea's economic climate next year and the government's stern warnings against a nationwide truckers' strike that's threatening to exacerbate woes at local industries. We'll also explore South Korea's plans to pump about 1 trillion won into the local defense industry, billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk considering South Korea as a possible Tesla manufacturing base, and South Korea's push for retailers to begin their digital transformation. Let's begin our 5-minute roundup. The central bank raised the key interest rate by another 25 basis points last week in a bid to tame soaring prices and to narrow the gap with the US Federal Reserve amid a slowdown in economic growth and concerns on corporate lending. The Bank of Korea's first ever 6th consecutive hike, its most aggressive run of monetary tightening, brings the benchmark lending rate to 3.25%. This closes the gap with the US benchmark to a maximum of 75 basis points after the Fed's 3-quarter-point hike earlier this month. The Monetary Board has raised rates throughout the year from 1% at the end of 2021. BOK Governor Lee Chang-yong warned that it may be too early to speculate on whether the rate has peaked, as uncertainty still looms in the global financial market and as the nation will likely see a greater than expected slowdown next year. He said inflation, which jumped 5.7% on year last month, will likely maintain an upward trend. In line with such concerns, the BOK slashed its economic growth forecast for next year to 1.7% from its previous outlook of 2.1%. Asia's fourth largest economy saw growth slow below the 1% range only twice since 2000, during the global financial crisis in 2009 and at the start of the pandemic in 2020. And adding to such woes is a nationwide walkout by thousands of truck drivers that began last Thursday. This has crippled local steel, cement, and construction industries as protesters halted deliveries and even began blocking entry and exit of freight at major ports and docks. Cement firms were unable to ship some 200,000 tons as cement truckers joined the strike, resulting in losses estimated at around 19 billion won, according to the Korea Cement Association. Freight volume entering and exiting the 12 ports in the country dropped to around 40% of the daily average. Truckers are demanding that the government extend a safe trucking rate system set to expire at the end of the year. The temporary 3-year policy was designed to mitigate exhaustion and overloading and guarantee minimum freight rates. They're also asking for wider coverage, currently applying to 6.2% of all trucks for business purposes. The government is offering another 3-year extension, but has drawn the line at expanded coverage. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol warned that the truckers' actions that held the nation's supply chain hostage are illegal and unacceptable. He added that the government may be forced to step in to break up such moves. Transport Minister Won Il-yong also said that the government will sternly deal with an indefinite general strike in accordance with the law, even hinting at the possibility of an executive order to end the strike. Such concerns and woes notwithstanding, South Korea plans to invest at least 1 trillion won, including creating a 120 billion won fund to encourage the growth of its defense industry following its stellar export figures this year. Trade, Industry and Energy Minister Lee Chang-yang unveiled South Korea's plan to invest some $753 million by 2027 to support public and private technology transfers and other R&D projects. Vice Defense Minister Shin Bum-chul also pledged that the nation's military will take a leading role in providing post-sale services to countries that purchase South Korean weapons. This comes after President Yoon Suk-yeol commended the nation's defense firms and announced his administration will push the nation to become the world's fourth largest arms exporter with a global market share of at least 5% by 2027. South Korea's arms shipments topped $17 billion earlier this month and will likely exceed $20 billion by the year's end, according to the state-run Defense Acquisition Program Administration. The lion's share of the orders came from Poland following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Poland's purchases reached $14.76 billion, including orders for K2 tanks, K9 self-propelled howitzer guns, and Fa-50 light combat fighter jets, and Chunmoo multiple rocket launchers. Meanwhile, business mogul Elon Musk said South Korea is a prime candidate for a manufacturing base for Tesla automobiles. President Yoon held a virtual meeting with the CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, and Twitter last week to make a case for investing in Korea, following reports about Tesla's plans to manufacture electric vehicles in Asia at a so-called gigafactory, according to Yoon's office. Musk replied by saying that he was considering South Korea as one of the candidate sites and added that he will decide on the location of the new gigafactory based on the level of manpower, technology, and production environment. The entrepreneur also expressed interest in South Korea's EV charging infrastructure, saying that Tesla is already using many outstanding South Korean-made parts in its autonomous driving and artificial intelligence features. He said purchases of auto parts from South Korea will likely amount to over $10 billion next year. And finally, South Korean retailers are trying to find solutions while bracing for dismal sales in 2023. And part of that solution, according to the government and industry experts, lies in digital transition. Retailers, market consultants, and government agencies took part in a seminar hosted by the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry last week to discuss their outlook for 2023 and voiced concerns over sluggish consumer sentiment, cutthroat price wars, and narrowing margins due to soaring inflation. Many saw on-site sales drop next year, but those who make a swift transition to online commerce may yet see a recovery in revenue. Kim Jong-un, managing director at MarketLink, said retailers, particularly convenience stores, need to turn their stores into an online delivery base, citing data that shop owners, along with their customers, are mostly in their 20s to 40s and familiar with new technologies. President Yoon has been pushing the country to pick up the pace in digital transformation. In a speech at a business summit of G20 leaders in Bali earlier this month, he said digital transition is key to innovations led by the private sector. Global tech giant Google announced that it is ready to boost its support by offering a cloud computing service that will enable Korean firms to accelerate their digital transition timeframe. That wraps it up for this episode of 5-Minute Briefs from Seoul. This has been Hee Jin Koo for KBSI, wishing you a great week.